Call the Village of Weston Finance and Human Resource Committee to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Ermeling,
Here.
Pollard,
Yes.
Hackler, here, Lipsaral,
Here.
Meinel, Olson,
Here.
Silver.
Here.
Oh.
Okay, public comments. I have two forms here. Jim Pensino.
Good evening, Jim Pensino, 512 Earl Street. Thank you for the opportunity to address the committee tonight. I just have a few things to share. First, I would like to provide more insight to the body tasked with developing policy for personnel and guiding the financial decisions for the Village of Weston. If you look in your packet on page 67, you may notice a legal fee for $2,100. Ironically enough, it is titled transparency. What is actually meant by that is quite the opposite. This is just the beginning of costs you will continue to see as the village board and staff hide behind the village attorney in an attempt not to fulfill their legal obligations to produce records, whereby operating with transparency at the forefront. I personally submitted a records request in April of 2025. After months of calls, emails, and public comments asking when the records would be available, they finally showed up, incomplete and heavily redacted. Earlier in the year, the village already spent over $2,000 in attorney fees, unlawfully redacting and not providing the records as requested. I reached out for legal advice to the Wisconsin Transparency Project, a law firm who is dedicated to enforcing Wisconsin's open government laws. They made contact with the clerk and identified that the records produced were not complete nor sufficient to comply with Wisconsin law. In response to the letter, the village board held a closed session meeting. I am unaware of the discussion that was had. Two individuals in this room know exactly what was said. What I do know is 3 months later, I still do not have the records 3 months after the letter was sent. So this is from April until now, so significantly more than 3 months later. I still do not have the records which were requested, and there's another $2,100 legal fee associated with the obstruction of the production of them. Being as how this body is responsible for the village's finances, it may behoove you to recommend to the Board of Trustees that they increase their legal budget moving forward. I cannot foresee the good old boys and girls wanting to actually comply with the law when they can just kick the can and spend someone else's money at Attorney Eady's office. Which leads me to the next thing. Why do we even have a finance committee? Why are you even here? For some reason, in the last several years, the finance committee has not been actively involved with the budget process for the Village of Weston. My opinion is that was done by design. Heck, there was a recommendation made for RFP for contracted services last month, 2 months ago, but action was taken last month. And the board outright slapped you all in the face by ignoring your recommendation based on the results of that RFP. It would almost appear that all the hard work you are putting in for is for naught. I appreciate your continued dedication to serving the residents of Weston and making things better for all of us.
I don't have a little speech, I just have questions, because I'm a newbie, so I'm really trying to learn
Okay,
everything.
if you could just state your name and
Oh,
address.
sorry, yes, correct. Lisa Back, 1808 Cortez Lane. The two questions I had is, one, I know you guys were talking about the HSA, I think towards the end of the meeting. And I could find what we paid in 2025 and what we're looking for in 2026. And I'm wondering, is there somewhere I should be looking at like what we spent per year on the HSAs, 2025 or 2026? And maybe it was in there and I just missed it. Cause it looks like it's gonna be like $1,000 increase, so I was just wondering about that. I think the board was gonna talk about engagement sessions, maybe in like January, February. I'm wondering if you would consider, like, if Jessica, this is probably for you, I'm like trying to wade through these numbers and I have no idea what they mean. Would you consider doing like, I don't know, 45-minute hour discussion, like what the TIF 1 is, what TIF 2 is for like us lay people? I don't wanna say I'm dumb, but I totally am confused. Even when it comes to like levy increases and all that, it's like a basic, so like when I'm looking at the notes, I would understand it a little bit better. Those are the two questions. Jim mentioned about the transparency project, and I just didn't know what the project was, so maybe you guys are talking about it, I don't know. And then the tax assessor, that was really interesting. I was here last time you guys were talking about it and went to the board and then was shut down. So it's just really interesting to see kind of that process. If you guys are talking about it today, why, if you were looking at different bids, like, wait, why we're not even looking into it? Even if we stay with the same tax assessor, like, why was that not looked at? And Barb, you're super informational. Can you talk louder? I always look forward to your comments, but it's like really hard for me to hear in the back. And I know you're just a soft talker, but I would love it. So that's all I have for you guys, just a couple of questions.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Pass these down to. All right, so any online comments or?
I just have staff online.
Mhm.
One moment, Zoom booted me out. I have to just get back in to pull back up the agenda. You can keep going. I just won't be on
Okay.
the screen for a little bit.
Item 4, approval of the minutes of the previous finance and HR meeting.
You want to do the email?
Sorry,
Did you just want to
yes.
acknowledge that?
Yes, we did, some of the board members received an email from James Russell. And if it is all right with the board, I would like this to be placed on file rather than being read. I did not receive it other than through other board members.
But we all received it now in printed fashion.
Right.
And it'll be on file. I'm fine with
That's
that.
agreeable?
Are we reviewing it tonight at the committee? I have not had a chance to review it.
Okay. No, not that I, other than just dealing with budget item, but this is going to be at the board level.
Okay, so not at this committee.
No. Not that I'm aware of.
The conversation about assessor it was just asked for tonight, but that's only one portion of what's included within the letter. Otherwise, the budget
I
public
mean,
hearing.
if they would like me to, I can read it into the record. I mean, it's a fairly long letter.
It is in the record, but this committee, I haven't had a chance to review it.
Okay.
You just want to take a moment now, everybody could take a moment and
And read through it and see if you have any comments, or if you want it read into the record, we can do that.
We need to address it, we should.
I don't think we need to address it. It's just something that the citizen asked for it to be included. I mean, we can certainly read it, but I just, from my perspective, I don't want us to get into the habit of having to read every email into the record that is sent to us. I think as long as they're sent to us and we can review them, it's unfortunate that she didn't send it to everybody on the committee for all of us to review ahead of time.
Right.
These do get put into the meeting minutes then, so it's public record.
Right.
you wouldn't be able to take action on anything with it because it's not included on the agenda.
Gotcha, okay.
When I received the email last night, I guess I took it as this was her public comment, but she wasn't able to make it tonight, so she wanted her public comment
Gotcha.
to be made on her behalf.
So do you feel it should be read? So we will place this on file and it will be part of the record. All right, so now approval of minutes of previous meeting of October 20th.
On page 3, I don't recall saying that I wanted the board to start looking at the referendum. I actually said I wanted us to start looking at the budget, to ask for the community's input, look at staff, look at priorities, where and what money is being spent, and different ways to reallocate the funds. I kind of talked about that kind of being a thought process for this committee over the next year before budget season. So I don't believe I had said I wanted us to start, or the board to start looking at a referendum. I don't believe that's what I had said. I should have read or watched the video prior to tonight, but I did not attempt it. So.
Okay. Actually, I don't recall you saying that either, but that's, I mean, you could have for all I know. Okay. Anything else? Pam, you'll look into that to see, or listen to the tape or Tom? Okay. Yes, I'm thinking of Pam as being with all the minutes and everything, but yes, it's all right. All right, we'll check into that for you then. Do I have a motion to approve?
We want to do that or have them brought back next time to review them a second time, the correction or
It's
potential.
it. Well, I don't, if that's what you like, then that you can make motion to.
Yeah, I'll make that motion to have them reviewed at the next meeting. See if that correction needs to be made.
Okay, motion by Brett to have, refer to next meeting. Have a second? Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, second by Even. On the question, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so carried. Okay. Item 5, October budget status report. Do you have any questions or concerns, or would you like any more information? All right, maybe, should we go down 5, 6, and 7 and just put, you know, on file, or we want to do them individually? Okay. Item 6, TIF 1 and 2 detail reports for October. Any questions or comments on that? Okay, item 7, legal details for October. Any comments or questions on that?
I have one question. I'm assuming, so obviously $4,600 with attorney Edie for the fire fee, is that all we are pulling on him of the fire fee? I'm assuming we're not using his services any further for that at this point, since the fire fee is dead. There's a lot of money on the fee that we're not gonna impose.
It's tabled indefinitely, I believe is what the motion was, so. But there isn't any further work at this time being done on fire fee, no.
What was the result of the $4,600?
It was his research on what was happening in the southern part of the state with the lawsuit, and then him attending and briefing the board on those items. I'm sure there was a outreach to the attorneys that were involved in that case too. In the Western Lakes District.
Okay,
And then just a comment on the invoice about Transparency Project. That's the name of a open records project, not something that we named, correct?
That's the name of the firm.
So that's where that name comes from.
Yeah, it's the name of the firm.
Thank you.
any other questions, comments? Okay, I have a motion to acknowledge work products transmittals, item 5, 6, and 7.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion by Luis. Do I have a second? Second by. Okay, Linda. On the question, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Is there educational presentation and reports? There's none. Old business, discussion and or possible action on the award of the 2026-2028 assessor's contract. Okay, Brett, you asked this to be on the agenda.
Yes, and I will try to be brief here. Certainly I have my own feelings on how the board decided on this, but that's neither here nor there. It is their prerogative and within their prerogative to decide in contrast to what this committee decides, and that's what they're elected to do. I do have some questions though, and I want to provide some information for this body to potentially discuss, reference the process. So I guess I have a couple questions for staff. I don't know if that's Jamie or Jessica or whoever that would be. But was there a designated committee to review the proposals other than this committee?
No, staff combined them, and then we did that little graph where we kind of picked out the highlights and we summarized it, and then it was presented to this committee.
With
So-
recommendation to the board.
So we advertised on the league. That's basically where I put the proposal out, and we did only get 4, which is one more than previous years. So we don't normally get a lot of people bidding on the work in our municipality.
Outside of our own social media website.
Right.
Okay. So based on the evaluation criteria we listed in the RFP, did anybody rate the 4 proposals that we had based on those criteria? No. Did we reach out to any of the references for any of the proposals?
Yes.
Okay, which ones?
We reached out to municipalities that were close to us.
Were they listed references or were they references we identified?
I believe both, because we did ask them to list other municipalities that they have worked with. So I would just have to go back to look to see if they were listed. I know they were listed on the chart, if that meant that they were also in their proposal.
Okay.
I would want to make sure I was 100% certain on that.
Fair enough. So I'd just like to read, this is a very small section of the RFP that the village put out. It says evaluation criteria. The following evaluation criteria will be used to review the assessment services proposals that are received and which meet the RFP specification requirements. Demonstration of successful experience in providing general assessment services and assessment software to Wisconsin municipalities of similar size as the Village of Weston. Past experience with providing assessment and revaluation services, cost of the assessment services, and evidence of the positive customer interaction. Final selection, the village board will select an assessment firm based upon the recommendation of the Finance and Human Resource Committee. So that's my first concern, is we failed to follow the language that we put out in our own RFP. The second piece is reading Wisconsin Administrative Code, which I don't recommend. It's all sorts of interesting. But there is a significant amount of administrative code in the state of Wisconsin that relates to RFPs, specifically items over $10,000. I have a few notes here that I'm going to more summarize than directly read, because again, nobody wants to listen to all the administrative code. But it does list a state of factors of things that are allowed to be considered when evaluating proposals. Some of them are very similar to pretty much what was in our RFP. It goes on to talk about an evaluation committee. There has to be a committee established by the procuring agency, has to have 3 or more members. At least 1 member or person advising the committee shall be trained in procuring contractual services. An evaluation committee shall review all proposals submitted in response to the RFP using the basis of the evaluation criteria provided. Conduct any formal or oral scheduled interviews, conferences, etc. Keep accurate records, not disclose any of the information, give them time to make a presentation if they're permitted, issue a final report and recommendation. And then it says for award, contract award, the award shall be based on the evaluation committee recommendation unless after review by the department of the award or by protest by a bidder or proposer, a change in award is approved because, and it lists a number of reasons why that would be allowable. By my reading of that part of the Wisconsin Administrative Code, we did not follow the administrative code either. So those are my concerns with that. Is obviously, again, the board made the decision that the board made, that's their prerogative. I'm not doing this out of any reason other than I just feel as though we are opening up the village to liability. And frankly, we're just not following our RFP. My other concern is I have written RFPs in the past, I've been on that committee. I've made recommendations to municipal boards in the past, and I know the amount of work that goes into those proposals. And I don't want the Village of Weston to be seen as though we are always just going to give it to the guy who always did it. And that people putting in the work to give us proposals to potentially at some point, maybe give us a better service than we have for better money, don't feel it's worth the efforts because we don't follow the process that is laid out. So I guess my thought was just having this committee discuss that, not from so much the perspective of we can change anything at this point. My understanding is that ship has already sailed, but maybe just conversation on what we can do to avoid something similar happening in the future. I don't know if I'm supposed to call on you or Jamie is.
I'm just gonna ask, what,
Chair.
Michael.
I'm just curious, what chapter of admin code were you referencing there?
10.08
10 point.
and several of the subsections of 10.08.
So I guess just one thing there, I mean, we run into this with engineering proposals and some of that stuff too. My understanding of this chapter of admin code is for the state of Wisconsin, not necessarily for cities, villages, townships, so. I guess there is, I don't believe it is necessarily state law, although it's good practices, just wanted to clarify that.
Well, I mean, it's from the Department of Administration, so really they obviously outline the state process, but again, while we may not necessarily be completely obligated to follow it, I agree. There's a good practice there for a reason for public purchasing. But my even bigger concern, like I said, is that we wrote an RFP that we just didn't follow any of the things we wrote in our RFP. So if I were one of those proposals, I would not waste my time in the future.
Yeah, the only thing I was gonna say is, obviously, I voiced some of those concerns during our discussion last month. I guess the biggest thing that, and this may be something that we need to look at as a village for just some of these things in general, is how things get referred from committees to the board. You know, the successor contract, we didn't refer anything to the board. We referred really action back to the staff to prepare for interviews. But this topic still came to the board for a vote, and vote happened. Really, as one member of the board, I would prefer to see that we give some credit to our committees in their deliberation to work through these things, because we ask citizens to participate in these committees, and their voices are very important for, you know, even though they're not elected, they are representative of the community. And I think it's important we give some more voice to that. I've had frustrations on this issue in the past at Public Works when we've made a recommendation and it's gone to the board and they've made a completely other decision. I think it's one thing if we make a recommendation to the board and the board doesn't agree with it. I understand that, but when we're not even making a recommendation and we kind of just get bunny hopped, I think that could be seen as problematic when people are wanting to get involved in making sure that we're having our citizens' voices heard. So yes, there's not much we can do about this now, but I do think maybe that's something we need to discuss as a board in the future about how committees refer to the board. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else with comments? Okay, yeah, I voted no, and then I voted yes when at the board, simply because with the first one was about the changing, you know, where they're gonna, with our recommendation or referral, as you would say, you know, they changed it and I voted no because I thought, and then I realized if it wasn't going to behoove to have someone come in and interview, if the board wasn't even going to be receptive to that, why waste their time? And that was in the end, I ended up voting yes to approve it because my vote could have gone either way and it still would have been approved. But yeah, I don't know why they would not do the interviews, be honest. But, okay, anything else on this? Okay. Thank you for all your work and readings and new business, discussion and or possible action on 2026 HSA contributions. Okay. Does anybody wish to comment or question or? All right, Linda?
For the HSA contributions, it looks like in 2026 that the premium employer contribution portion is having larger gaps in 2026. Therefore, the HSA contribution is quite a bit higher. Did the deductibles change as well? For which one? Just for the high deductible health
both.
plan or for both?
Well, I moved from, is it HMO to a tiered?
Approach. So we had a 5% reduction in high deductible and a 1% reduction in traditional. And we allow staff to pick whether they would want to do traditional or high deductible based on their individual situations.
So the deductible decreased for the high deductible health plan.
No, the deductible went up, the premium went down.
So the deductible went up?
The deductible went higher.
Thank you.
Yes.
Plan design changed.
Yes.
Yeah, so the deductible went higher,
Yep.
the premiums went down. Did the deductibles go higher on the traditional?
So
Or
with
did they
the,
stay flat with the tiered? Are there?
the hard part with the tiered is it depends on where you go. If you would go to a Marshfield only provider, they're less. If you go to someone outside of Marshfield, they're a little bit higher, or if you have to go outside, both.
But
But you can switch in between. It will just depend on where you go, what it is.
Sure. For the employer contribution for the traditional, though, you're providing the same amount regardless of the tier. When I look at the single employee spouse, employee child, the employer contributions are the same. The traditional.
The employer contributes 85% of the.
Sure, so when I look at the premiums, I mean, they are lower for 2026 for the traditional from the employer, oops, from the employer contributions, right? The employer contributions for the HSA is also lower, but we're giving a lot more in HSA contributions from
So-
last year.
What has always been done is the village looked at, we're giving a benefit to all single policyholders this much, employee spouses this much, family this much, and then we're gonna give you the option, if you wanna do an HSA, we're gonna give you the same benefit, but to make up the gap, we're gonna put that in your HSA account. So that's what we did. We budget one amount for all family. So if you decide you don't wanna take the traditional and you choose the HSA, the difference between the premium of those two, the village would put in your HSA account.
So the traditionals cost more.
Yes.
But you don't have to pay for all services.
Right.
until- Yeah.
Because it's a $2,500 difference.
It has never been this high.
Yeah, it's quite, it's, as we're looking at funds and we're trying to reduce our expenses to help pay for certain things, I just wanted to make sure that we're recognizing that as a finance committee, that that's an additional 2,500. Not that it's I'm all for that. HSA is a wonderful plan. And I know high deductible health, I don't know what your deductible is. Did you go with the minimum required?
No. Because we went to tiered. So ask it a different way.
Yeah, so there's in order for a high deductible health plan to be qualified as a high deductible health plan, there is a minimum deductible that you have to charge. Like it has to meet a threshold in order to qualify it as a high deductible health plan.
And I'm assuming because we are fully insured and we participate in the co-op is doing that work. So it is through security, but security did the tiered approach to incentivize going to Marshfield Clinic. So it is less if you go to Marshfield Clinic this year.
But it still has to qualify as a high deductible health plan.
But I'm,
Yeah.
again, I'm assuming
We
that.
made sure that we are
Yes.
all kosher with the law.
Yeah.
Because she's not just representing us, she's representing
Oh,
dozens of.
sure,
Yeah.
sure.
We are all on the same plan and all different entities in the metro.
Yeah, my only thought when you're looking at future HSA contributions, rather than going to the approach that you have for the premium difference on it, is maybe tie it to how much the deductible is changing. Because at the end of the day, it's to help them pay for that high deductible. Sometimes it's 3,500. And so if you're capping it at 3,500, why would you give them more in the HSA?
So what I do is, because open enrollment is after our budget is approved, I budget as if everyone's taking traditional. There's no guessing. We do not make them decide beforehand or afterhand. And I have to make sure I budget, so whatever people choose, we can cover that. In the past, it hasn't been an issue. That's where, obviously, we're bringing it to the board can decide, and committee can make recommendations, but I budget a certain amount because I don't have the information ahead of time, so.
Anybody else have any questions? I do, but I always like to hear from the committee first. What is the benefit to the village if we are making everybody whole as such as premiums go? What is the
The
incentive?
benefit to the employees to decide what they want for their health insurance. It's a benefit to the employees.
Okay, but the village is not, I mean, I don't, say the traditional is more expensive and I'm trying to think how I want to phrase it. If the traditional is more expensive and I decide I want to go with the high deductible, I don't know why, but why I want to go with the high deductible, but you're going to give me the difference between the two premiums. So that is the village's cost no matter what. Because if one costs $100 and one costs $50 and we're going to take, this one takes the 50 and we're going to give them 50, it's still $100.
At the end of the day, a high deductible health plan, I understand why you give the HSA, because it's encouraging people to go on that high deductible health plan, because that then feeds into the end of the year cost for the health insurance as they're going to renewals, because the deductible is on the employee. And so it
Okay.
incentivizes the employees to take that high deductible health plan, which eases the cost burden on the village for those first claims that you get. So if you have a $3,500 deductible, the employee has to pay that upfront before, I'm assuming, before the village starts paying anything. So when you're going at renewal, they're not looking at that 3,500.
Okay, the usage.
There's,
Okay.
I don't know what deductibles are for the traditional. No idea.
I can bring them up. They were in the packet last month, but I.
Typically in the traditional, then your deductibles are going to be lower, which means they're going to hit that deductible first and then the village is going to start paying. So it's an incentive program to get people towards that high deductible health plan.
Okay, so then that usage is not, at the end of the year, they always say, we use this much and, I can't think of the right term. Yeah,
So what the village has paid in premiums for all the claim, towards because you're fully insured. Right?
Yes.
but the insurance, what they pay out then is $3,500 less.
Correct. It's less. The insurance company doesn't.
So maybe our rates won't go up so high next year. Okay,
But
all
we
right. I
also-
was looking at this
Got
and
it.
going, I, at one point in time, I think I knew this, but I kind of going, well, what is the benefit here?
The caveat to that though is we're part of the cooperative, right?
Right,
So we still do better when we're together, but we cannot be the sole impactor of our claims.
right.
We're part of that larger group. But this year we also made the determination to do the direct primary care with Link. So we're doing the per member per month to try to offset some of those higher cost claims.
Because those don't even go to the insurance company.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you run through this? Like, which is your high deductible health plan?
So this is just traditional
That's
and
the traditional.
this is the tiered approach. This was just what was in the packet last month, so some of this is not
I wasn't here,
applicable,
sorry.
but that's okay. But just it would be, you're in the security health plan, the premier HMO, the middle, that's where we were this past year. And now you can switch and go to the tier 1 or the tier 3. You don't have to tell anyone, you just book your appointment. And then obviously tier 1 is gonna, and this is gonna drop off because my internet dropped off again. is if the Marshfield only incentivized in the 1,500 and 3,000, but then you jump to the 3 to 6 if you go into the Premier network, or the 4 to 8 if you're outside in the Explore network. Which an example would be if you needed to get services at Mayo Clinic.
Sure.
So the buckets all kind of pool into each other, but you can switch in between any of the tiers.
So what is the,
Deductibles waterfall into each.
Yes.
what is the high deductible health plan deductible?
Yep, I can bring it up as soon as my internet comes back.
She's lost it like 4 times already.
She's quick. There we go. So 3 to 6 for tier 2, which was where we were, but what's very similar, it's a little bit higher than what it was last year. And then the 18 to 36, again, if that would be, it's incentivizing that Enrich or the Marshfield only, or the 4 to 8.
So the deductibles are pretty much the same. On the last slide, except for the single. 3 to 6, 4 to 8.
Yeah, the Marshfield only is a little
It's-
less on the
it's a little less.
traditional.
Yeah.
I think the minimum deductibles underneath the IRS high deductible health plan is
1750 or something like that, yeah.
So I mean, we're not really, even with the increase to the HSA, we're not making up that whole difference if you take the high deductible.
Is the intent to, sorry to interrupt, is the
No.
intent to, with the contribution to make it just as cost effective for the employee to choose one versus the other?
No, it's just to make it the same.
Same
It's
benefit.
to offer the same benefit. So you don't, so one, if you took the traditional, you wouldn't get a better benefit as someone who chooses to take the high deductible because they don't go to the doctor.
Yeah.
It's really just to make it, the past practice has been just to offer the same benefit.
Normally, it's a little different on a fully insured versus a self-insured, but normally, if I'm paying the bills for all the medical claims, I want to incentivize people to take the lower cost plans so that I reduce the amount of cost or risk that I share on a fully insured basis. The carrier is actually getting the benefit of the risk of people choosing the lower cost plans presumably. So I don't know if the reason why I would give money to the employees on a high deductible plan is because it's dollar sensitive. I mean, they have to fund it through fund their claims through HSA, and it's hard to do that, especially if you don't get any money from the employer to help fund that. This is a big lift though. This is a big lift from one year to the next. I don't usually see this from the commercial scale. But
Well, that's what I was struggling with is.
Yeah.
You know. So what is your thoughts?
on so the family plan for the 2026 contribution, is that 2340? Is that a per person number or is that a total?
That's a total.
That's a total.
That's a total.
So overall totals then, we're talking like an extra couple grand essentially.
A grand.
One.
Yeah. So if you were on the family and again, we were with the Premier, so if your likelihood is to stay with the Premier, your family deductible there is gonna be the $6,000. And then if you stay in the Premier and you choose not to go to Marshfield, you'll pay the 20% co-insurance until you hit the max out of pocket of 8. So we would be providing the 2,300 of that. If you used it in that year, right? The other benefit of HSA is
Yep.
goes into your bank.
Yeah.
You choose when you want to use it.
So the 2,300 is not per person.
Not per person, total per family.
But it's
Oh,
per
it's per
employee,
employee though.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes,
Per
okay,
employee, that's, yeah. So
That's what I was asking, yeah.
sorry.
per,
So how many, and 40 employees or 40 employees or?
what's
We have
the,
like
What's our-
37 and most are on, I would say 36 are on insurance, 30, probably pretty close to 100%.
Okay, so,
But not all are family plans, there's a mixture with
yeah.
them.
So what is your estimated total expenditure expected for
they just say,
a $2,300 or an average of $1,000 or times 36 employees, we're like $36,000 in additional costs a year?
We'd have to do that quick math, but it is already projected in the budget because we did the traditional plan,
For
so,
everybody.
I don't,
Assuming that if the village would say, okay, we're not contributing, I think a lot of your employees are gonna switch from HSA back to traditional. One of the reasons why people switch to the HSA is the contribution that we're seeing.
you wouldn't necessarily have the cost savings.
Just the reason.
When you say we wouldn't have the cost savings, I guess I stumble on that because we aren't saving anything.
The piece on saving on the claims though, because they pay for it upfront. But we are trying to, thank you, Michael, omit some of that by doing the direct primary care. But if you do I get what you're saying. We offer the same benefit. It's been our past practices. We offer the same benefit.
So net, Jessica, what do you think is the additional cost with this 2026 change to the village?
Compared to what?
Well, you got an uplift of, you got contributions that were uplifting our costs on a,
So
Per
at this
employee
point, I
basis.
can't even tell you because I don't know, like, if you were to say, okay, we don't wanna do that contribution, we're gonna go back, are the employees, cause obviously open enrollment, are they gonna go back and switch what they want to enroll in? Are they gonna go back to the traditional? And then,
I'm just trying to figure out what we think, so we're talking about a bunch of other costs we have. Each month, we talk about additional costs we're incurring, fire fees costs, we have a lot of different costs. This is just another cost. What do we anticipate that cost is in a 2026 health insurance perspective?
based off of current incumbents enrolled. So if you've got 15 at the single, 20 at the family, just based off of what you currently have for enrollment. So you're looking at $2,500, approximately $2,500 difference between the 25 and 2026 times 30 people.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to find, that's what I was trying to understand.
I do not keep track of who has what insurance, I guess I really can't give you a really good guesstimate, I have it on my worksheet, but I don't have it broken out by family. Do you have any families? I can look at one of our spreadsheets.
I guess if I can ask a question.
Sure.
I mean, I guess one of the, as Jessica said, she budgets based on everybody who is taking the more expensive version. So I guess the question is, what is it that you guys, we're trying to maybe solve or correct here? I mean, because it is, if everybody took the traditional, that's the cost, it's that big number. And I guess then if an employee says, I'll take the HSA, the village is saying we're making up that difference so that the cost is our cost for employee X, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, our cost is our cost. I guess is there, I mean, we're in the public sector, we don't get bonuses, we don't get anything. Like if I get a grant for a street project, I don't get a, hey, Michael, here's your 5% kickback, good job. So I guess I'm just trying to understand it, like it's a way to try to keep the budget, I guess, aligned with, so that we're not seeing dips, because if everybody this year said, yeah, I want to take the HSA, so we're like, okay, cool, our health insurance costs are going way down. And then next year, some people get burned and they're like, well, yeah, no, we're going back to the traditional, now our cost goes up. We keep having this yo-yo effect, and that's really the hard part, I think, with our budgeting processes. We can't have a lot of these jumps and I guess ups and downs, so this is a way to try to keep it so that we're consistent, year over year. You know, and if it's a 3% increase or whatever, it's a lot simpler, or I guess easier to know how to budget that as we look at future years and how that all ties together.
Yeah, we had cost savings this year, like we still went down, which.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
that's
nobody's insurance went down.
Yeah, I guess to that point, in 2025, the contribution for, say, an individual was 8,800. This year it's 8,700. So I mean, there is a cost savings there between 25 and 26. So if you look at it from that way, the village is saving money. By, you know, adding on a little extra deductible on the employee. So I guess as an employee, I'm hearing you guys say, well, why are we giving you this extra benefit? But at the same time, if I have two people in my family that hit the max out of pocket, I'm not getting into savings. Like I'm still spending more money than I would have last year. So I think somewhere in there, we're kind of lost sight of that, but.
So for the HSA, we have 13 people on family. We have 1 on employee plus 2 children. We have 2 on employee plus child, 4 employee plus spouse, and 7 for employee only. So there's the calculations that need to be done.
Okay,
So
anybody
10,
else?
essentially 10 people are taking the HSA plan, everybody else is taking the traditional plan.
No, 13 plus 1, 14, 15, 16, 27 are taking the HSA.
Oh,
We have 4 on the traditional.
so majority of people are taking the extra HSA contribution.
Yes. So over the years since we've offered it, we've had the transition. One of the things that I guess I don't want to say it, but what we need to look at is in the future, what is the village going to do? We don't always have these cost savings. And in the future, we got to make sure we have room for the village board to kind of help the insurance evolve. If we can't afford this type of insurance, we're looking at a 19% increase. With the tiered health, we're able to get that. So we have a decrease this year. Let's take this decrease, move on. What are we going to do next year? Is next year the year that we force everyone to move to the HSAs? Is next year the year that, okay, the benefit isn't going to be, the contribution's not going to be 2,300 for the family, it's going to be a little bit less. For me, budgeting is looking forward, what's my plan for next year? And this year, I'm really excited that we're able to offer this, maybe incentivize even more. And also they can use that contribution to help offset the link. So in the future, if we get everyone to go on link, our village as a whole, our costs are going down. If we go out on the market as a village, are we going to be able to get a really good deal moving forward? That's where I'm looking going forward in the future, implementing link, getting everyone on the HSA, and maybe once we make that leap, go to the HSA, increase that high deductible because we're on link, we have really good savings. So I guess that's looking futurist. I know we're looking at cost savings right now, but it's in the budget, it's balanced. Let's look towards the future. What can we do in the future with our health insurance? Because right now, we're pretty good. Our budget's balanced, I guess. Don't necessarily want to
Any other
use
comments?
too much time to think about the here and now. Let's look forward, see what we can do for the future.
And those numbers are strong for the HSA, and I can see why the deductibles are so similar between the 2 plans.
Any other comments or questions or whatever? I guess the other thought is that it, like you said, you budgeted for the regular plan and that's what it would be if they all switched. And the fact if some of them went to the high deductible, that we would just make up the difference in the premium. We're not paying them the deductible. I mean, I guess it's not necessarily, as you said, saving the money because we're not paying that deductible either. They are, so. Any other All right, what is your pleasure?
I'll make a motion that we make the 2026 contribution for single 600, employee plus spouse and employee plus child at 1,200 and family at 1,800.
Is that what's on the list here? I'm just.
No, that's.
Okay, I would say you're making your own. Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
You just repeat that, so 600,
600 for single, 1,200 for both employee plus spouse and employee plus child, and 1,800 for family.
thank you.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Ask one more time. Do I have a second?
Second,
Okay, motion by, second by Linda.
So if I could just have a little discussion, I respect everything that we just talked about. I think it's really good conversation. I guess the way I look at it is, yes, we do have some cost savings. And I think we should reflect an increase for our employees to help incentivize it. But I think the jump is pretty intense for me. The proposed contributions that I'm saying are increases for everybody from last year. So I think the fact that their premiums are going to be lower and they're still getting an increase in the contribution, and it's a more level contribution, it's more clean, it's not based off of, I guess, math. It's just, I think it's a benefit to not only the village, but also the employees to have a more stable number to look at each year to kind of know what their contribution will be. So that's my pitch.
Okay.
So I'm struggling with two things. I agree with Luis in part, being a public sector employee for over a couple decades, like, yeah, we don't take public sector jobs for money. We don't take public sector jobs for the big bonuses we get at the end of the year, right? A lot of times benefits are seen as one of the great big, perks. And so certainly want to make sure that we can retain and attract good people. I agree that the jump is a lot. My other concern is that if we do keep these higher numbers, what will staff think next year if we have to take those contributions back or we lower them down? I think generally people like an increase, even if it's a smaller increase versus if we tell them next year, we're dropping them by $500 instead of that $1,000, you're only gonna get 500. I think that will impact employee satisfaction more than giving them a smaller increase now and not committing us to something year over year, because generally I've never seen an HSA contribution go down from the public sector that I worked in. I've also never seen $1,000 jump at once. So they generally don't ever fall back. And so we're kind of setting a precedent by jumping it this much that we're just going to now year after year, it's going to be at least this much. And obviously cost of living, all the things Jessica talked about, next year, it's going to probably even have to be more if we're going to continue to try to cover that difference. Because cost of insurance is going up. It's just what it is. So I guess those are the two things that I've kind of been going back and forth on as far as the numbers.
Anybody else?
Yeah, so two thoughts that were in my mind. I think that the savings that we're having in 26 versus 25 reflect the additional link relationship. The insurer is gonna have less costs because people are now gonna go to Link, and we're gonna incur those costs because we're gonna have you paying Link the flat fee, which is a good thing. But I think that to me reflects this nominal change. They're gonna reduce their primary care expenses by roughly the value that that's my estimation again, but that's kind of what I say. So that's one point. So it's, whether it's full amount of savings. It's kind of hidden with this extra link cost that we're. The second point is on the other side, we talk about a flat 1,200 for employee spouse and employee child. Actuarially, when you have two adults on a plan, it is more expensive. It is higher cost. So I could see it, while I'm okay with a reduction, maybe a little differentiator with two adults versus the children. Children aren't, while they seem to incur more times going to the doctor, it doesn't usually result in more costs. Anyway, that's just an actuarial science.
Michael?
I guess I was just gonna make a comment. The link is an optional thing. It's not required that every employee has it, so we may or may not have everybody choose to use link. And I guess the other comment I have is this is the way the HSA amount has been determined for the past, I don't know, 5 probably plus years. Is that true?
I would say over that, because I think when I came.
Did you say more than that?
Yeah.
Okay,
when I
so-
came back,
Since we
that's-
got-
Yeah, so since we went to an HSA, so over 5 years, so the discussion about the contribution number and it changes, I guess employees here have at least been accustomed to that change where it's just the difference between the two plans. So 1 year you might get 700, 1 year you might get 200, and 1 year you might get 1,500. So again, I don't know if we don't necessarily have a table that shows what that trend line looks like, but again, as far as the expectations of staff here, that has been it historically. So then
Mike, would you expect then, if we reduce these contribution rates, would you expect more people to choose the HMO plan? Is that what you're saying?
may or may not. I mean, if somebody's got their HSA built up, they might go, okay, cool, I'll stick. I mean, it's, again, if people have had an HSA for 5-6 years and they've got a few grand sitting in there, they're probably okay just staying with it. It depends on what type of user they are of the system. Yeah.
Or what they potentially see happening in this next year. For
Yeah.
open enrollment, sometimes people make different changes because they know they have a surgery coming up or they have a.
Yeah. I mean, my other option with health insurance is through a different public sector in the area. And we've gone everything from being penalized to having village health insurance to being penalized for using their insurance to getting cash in lieu to, I mean, and some of those change yearly or every time there's a new finance director, like insurance changes, I guess. All I'm trying to say is the expectation year over year isn't necessarily the same dollar amount or always more or less. So I guess, but knowing, again, saying 600, 1,200, 1,800, what's that number based off of? Because then if we're not basing it off of a difference of two numbers, now we almost are trying to, if all of a sudden a traditional plan becomes more than an HSA, I don't know if that ever would happen, but you end up almost backwards. So.
I'm aware of some employers in the area that are incentivizing people to take other spouses' plans so that they'll give $10,000 in an HRA to an employee that takes the other spouse's plan. And that way they cap their cost at 10 grand as opposed to $23,000. And it's a material saving. Those are options for the future that we can look at.
We tried, we failed. We've tried lots of different stuff.
Yeah.
Disposal carve outs, as I referred to in the past, yeah. The board has been very supportive of the current insurance that we have and the way it's structured. Last year and previous years, we tried convincing them instead of taking a 10% increase, maybe let's share the increase with the employees, shifting it between 80, because right now it's 85-15. And the board felt that they had enough 0% in the past that they wanted to not change the benefit to the employees. So there's been a lot of discussions on health insurance. There'll be a lot more in the future, but we really haven't changed.
Do you require for the HSA contribution that we contribute as well? It's not a requirement.
Where do these numbers compare to like our unions, their fire and police unions as far as what?
So Safer always does whatever we do.
Okay, well, that's.
They have in the past. I don't know how it's changed with the union contract right now. I'm not sure.
There's no change.
Okay, so whatever the village always got in the past, safer will get. And I don't know how rough Mountain Bay is.
I believe that it's less, but I could see if I could find that quick.
So Jessica, if you're sick, because I understand where you're coming next year, if it raises or whatever, but, or lowers, then I think the employees just expect that. Because it's based on between the two premiums. That's how it's always been since we've been doing it. So they don't expect it always to increase if the premiums go down. You know, the difference between the two. So, that part of it, I wouldn't, you know, worry about the employee thinking they're always gonna get an increase. No, not if the premiums between the two change.
And Barb, all I'll say is it's hard. I really try to shut off the filter of like my life experiences with some of the stuff and try to take it for what it is. I do have to compare this to the fact that I work in a public sector and the type of insurance I get. And that what I'm proposing is more than I get as an HSA contribution. And for me to get an HSA contribution, I have to contribute the same. I have to match it. So I'm using that as a filter that I'm still proposing higher than I get, which we've had a great conversation recently about just because one municipality does one thing doesn't mean that we should, because not everybody does things the right way. So my numbers aren't, I would say they come through that filter, but at the end of the day, the way I look at it is what I'm proposing is an increase across the board for all the contributions. There's a little bit of savings. And at the end of the year, next year, having the same conversation, and if the contributions need to change, we make those changes then. I'm just talking about this year, so I am fine with whatever we decide because ultimately the board can choose whatever they want to do. So I just made that pitch. Thank you.
I've got to ask again, because I think I've seen it up there, but what is the difference, the deductible between, I know it wasn't as, you know, that's where I'm kind of,
Well, except for the employee only. I think the employee deductible and the high deductible, I thought I saw 1,800. And in the traditional, I thought I saw 1,300, maybe.
1,500 versus 1,800, and then 3,000 versus 3,600.
no, what, I'm sorry. What is family? I guess that's probably the,
For the same comparison, Marshfield Clinic is the family was 3,000. In the traditional, and the HSA is 3,600.
so once they, because I'm not familiar with this particular insurance. So once they reach their deductible, is there any other differences in expenses between the two of them?
Yes, well, if you, again, because it's the tiered approach, you'd have a co-insurance if you were outside of the Marshfield network. And then I believe it's 20% co-insurance until you hit that max out of pocket under both. But you have no co-insurance if you go just to the, what's called enriched, to the Marshfield Clinic.
Okay, so I mean, it's up to you which way you go, but it doesn't matter which insurance which one you have, the high deductible or the traditional, you're going to get that 20% either or, right?
If you'd go under the Premier HMO, it would be a 20% co-insurance until you hit max out of pocket.
Okay,
Is the max out of pocket different for a high deductible health plan versus the traditional? Or are they all the same?
It's a little bit less for high deductible. It was $8,000 for a family max out of pocket if you were in the Premier, 3,600 if you're in the Marshfield only, and then for traditional, it would be 9,000 for Premier and 4,000 for Enrich.
goes higher.
that you're paying all along.
Yeah,
Yeah, that. You might be paying a visit, a copay or,
well, I was just kind of wondering, I mean, we're paying out quite a bit for the contribution, but yet the deductible is really almost the same. I thought that was, the deductible was quite a bit more for the high deductible versus the traditional. Okay, well, we have a motion and we have a second.
Remind us of what your motion was. It's been a while.
Yeah.
It was that the 2026 contribution for single was 600, for employee plus spouse, it's 1,200, for employee plus child, it's 1,200, and for family, it's 800.
1800.
What did I just say?
800.
Sorry, 1,800.
Okay, and what was it for employee and child?
12.
Oh, the same as the
Yeah.
employee and that's what I thought you said, but I wrote it down, but I'm going, okay,
6, 12, 12, and 18.
what is that based on?
What is that based on?
Yeah.
Basically a regional number increase associated with last month's or last year's. So no, it's not based off of any certain.
Okay, well, I was curious what, where you came up with it.
Yep.
Okay, so there would be like $180 difference there. 500. Okay, well, what's your pleasure? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Oh, all right. Excuse me. Remarks from staff?
the only thing that I would just point out, I've been mentioning it at the end of all the meetings, is just, everyone knows that we're switching garbage providers as of January 1, and the date that your garbage can needs to be put out, and you've told your neighbors.
I gotta tell my one neighbor, because she doesn't always set hers out. So, but you're saying, I read that where it said the last 2 weeks.
Yep.
Well, I guess because one's recycling week and
Yes.
one, because I'm going, well, I'm gonna set it out until they take it away.
You just have to make sure that, sometimes people are snowbirds or might need help, or maybe they think, I don't have a lot of garbage, I'll put it out next time.
Right,
And then they miss the window that it will get collected, so.
right.
And then just letting people know too that there'll be new containers in their yard and not to utilize those because they won't get picked up until after the first of the year, because they will start to get delivered like the second week of December.
Okay, so if somebody doesn't put it out, will they come, if they call, will they come?
They
and
will
get
not
it?
come back likely. We will have to, if we have to make other arrangements, we'll have to see how many we have. That's why we're trying to.
Well, I was just gonna say, because I'm sure you're gonna have some that they're just, like you said, the snowbirds and the, whatever.
And if you do have friends or family that are snowbirds, they can drop their containers off now. They just have to send the address in and say they dropped their containers. They'll get removed from our bill right now, so. Because they don't have service, and and their containers would already be there.
Okay, but what about the ones that you didn't set out when you should have?
Like I said, we'll have to see what happens, how many we have. But at this moment, Waste Management doesn't have a secondary date to go back through the village to pick up anybody that got left.
Okay,
So it
well, I
ended up
was
being
just
an us.
wondering, then do they know how many are out there and how many they took back and? Well, I'm just saying, I can see somebody saying, well, I'll put it back by my garden and use it for something, or.
Larry has a list. They have a list, but will they do a 1-for-1 when they pick up? I don't know. Right,
No.
and the containers, Luis did a great post. The containers might not even be theirs.
Like 4 different company names.
Well, I was gonna say, I think can't remember what I've got anymore, but yeah, well, nobody'd want mine, the wheels go on.
We just want to make sure that we get the word out, and at the end of these meetings is a good time if people are watching the videos, or if, again, if you have friends or family, just tell one other person, and we would greatly appreciate it.
And Waste Management's back open for
Yes,
us
today.
to go in there, so.
Yay. Okay. About committee members, Louise? Kevin?
Nothing for me.
Just as a potential future agenda item, I know that's what that is. I'd like us to maybe in December start kind of maybe planning what a potential like review of budget priorities and stuff would look like for the next year, kind of like what Jessica had shared some Perry did. Just maybe talking about how we want to review things. I think the conversation we had on HSA tonight was great, regardless of the outcome, if we change things or not. I think those are the conversations that should be happening. I think a lot of times, like, then it's that costs just keep going up. So I like Jessica's approach of like, what are we gonna do in the future? Let's think forward. Well, I think one of the things we can do forward is really just take a deep dive at different things and look at services, what's important, and what we should be funding more or less, or those types of things, right? Just want us to get started on that in some fashion.
No, I can't comment on comments. Okay. And I have nothing at this time. So, next meeting date will be December 15th at 4:30. Open for adjournment.
Almost.
Nothing for Brent.
Second.
Second by Linda. On the question, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Did you hear me better or?